In the short little book of Haggai, which is just 2 chapters long, again, we're hearing about God motivating, prodding, and pushing the people to rebuild the temple of the Lord so that God has a place and a priority in the lives of the people and the community. Again, these folks have come back from exile. It's not like they're rolling in dough or have a lot of resources. But what God says to them is, if you're obedient, and you start rebuilding the temple, when the foundation's laid, I'm going to bless you. And as you know from hearing me preach for many years, some of you, I am not a prosperity preacher. Just because someone is faithful and obedient and committed to God doesn't mean they're going to have a long life of health, wealth, and prosperity. We've seen too many people to count through the centuries who've been incredibly faithful, holy, and obedient, who have died young, who have even had their lives taken from them. However, that being said, part of what we hear from the Lord in Haggai is, when you are obedient, my blessing follows. And the way I like to think of that is there is a blessing simply in being obedient. That when we try to live as much as we can in the center of God's will, when we try to follow what God tells us to do, a lot of times our lives go a little better. And here in Haggai chapter 2, our verse for the day is verse 19, at the tail end of a number of verses where God is exhorting the people, when the foundation's laid, then prosperity will follow. And God says, is there any seed left in the barn? Do the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree still yield nothing? From this day on, I will bless you. And as I think about the imagery in this particular part of the book, it's this dynamic of when the foundation is laid, then I will bless you. And if you think about your own life, and it's, am I building my life on a good foundation? Am I building it on my relationship with God through Christ? If you think about Jesus and the Sermon on the Mount, part of what he says at the very end of that is that anyone who hears my words and acts on them is like a wise man who built his house upon a rock. And so part of what I take from these words is I want to make sure that the foundation of my life is built on God and my relationship with God. And if that foundation is well laid, then as I build the rest of my life upon that, I'm going to be in a much better place. I also think about Paul talking to the church in Corinth, sharing with them about there is no other foundation that can be laid than that of Jesus Christ. I pray that as you go about this day, you'll add some good, solid stones to the foundation of your relationship with God.